Recognize that tune, and you know it's time for Relics Radio. This is a family-friendly show, so the entire family can join us as we talk metal detecting and relic hunting. You can call into the show at 270-495-0315 or join in the chat and post any comments or questions you might have, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. You're listening to Relics Radio of Southern Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. And you are live tonight on Relics Radio. It is November the 8th, 2018, and we're coming to you along the Cumberland River here in Southern Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. And I am your host, Diggin' with Seven.
And I am your co-host, Tennessee Jeff.
And we're just two rednecks, what?
With a metal detector.
That's right. Just two rednecks with a metal detector. And I tell you what, we have got a great show lined up for you tonight, and we'll be bringing our guest on here in just a moment. But I tell you what, Jeff, I see the chat just flying, isn't it?
It is flying. Of course, Bill Hayes, Mark Hoover's in the house. Dennis got Barb in the house already. And Ken Guthrie, Ed. Move on down here. We've got Becky in the house already. Finding America. Nick Hayes. Let's see. Nick Hayes was the first one, so
yeah,
that's about it right now. Of course, they're still popping up pretty good. So
yeah,
we're gonna have a full house.
We are gonna have a full house, and we've got a great guest tonight, don't we, Jeff?
We sure do. I say this guy knows what he's doing. I've seen a couple of videos, and I think he knows what he's doing.
I think so, too. Why don't you go ahead and introduce him, because they're on speakerphone over there, and we're already hearing them, so let's just bring them on into the show.
Well, everybody, we've got Chuck Smalley in the house. So.
Hey, what's going on tonight, Chuck?
Hi, guys. How's it going? Excited to be on with you tonight, and we're still out here in Orange, Virginia, and we're working Montpelier.
Oh, that's great, I tell you. You know, and we talked just a minute before the show, we probably have a lot of listeners on our show here that have no idea what Montpelier is. Can you just briefly describe to them what that is, what the historic value of that place, and what's going on there?
I'll do the very best I can for you. It's outside of Orange, Virginia. And it is James Madison, our fourth president's home. James and Dolly lived here, but it dates back into the 1600s era with his relatives settling the region under grants and moving out here and starting a small plantation operation and evolving to James becoming president of the United States, the writer of our Constitution, and it's unfettered property because they really didn't move a lot of dirt here, bulldoze anything. There's 2,600 acres of untouched ground, which has everything from the original homestead site, slave quarters, tobacco barns, all the other buildings it takes to run plantations, moving forward all the way up to the era of it being sold in 1844 to pay off debts, and then moving through a couple owners and then going through the Civil War, where when they camped here, they had as many as up to 5,000 Confederate soldiers staying on this property. And then going on from that into the DuPont era, and the DuPonts owned it and turned it into and they didn't change much. They added buildings, but so what happened is the DuPonts donated it to a trust and allowed the house to be returned to its original condition, and the archaeologists to come in and start working back through history.
My mouth is already watering. In yours, Jeff?
It sure is. I'm sitting here thinking, look at all the history in that one place.
I know it.
And, you know, there's got to be some goodies in that ground.
Oh, I tell you what. And what are they doing right now? What are you involved with right now there at Monpelier?
Well, we're working below the main mansion, down the road a little ways near the Madison Cemetery. And near that cemetery was Mount Pleasant, and that was the first known structures. It was not a plantation style. This was in the 1700 era, 1650, 1700, and his family had that set up, and then it moved and got bigger. And then when the grandmother passed away, James then built and expanded into the mansion, started that up on the hill, and it grew from there. It's quite the place. The history is phenomenal here. I mean, it's literally phenomenal for the continuity of people being here from that era all the way forward, and the evolution of from the time of settlement with slavery, with Civil War, the Emancipation Proclamation, all the changes that moved this place forward through the DuPont era. They still have one of the top 5 steeplechase races in the world here. The DuPonts ran this as a horse ranch or a horse farm, and they still have retired racing horses out here and still support part of this.
Man, could you imagine being at that site and being able to dig it? I mean,
and I tell you, the key word that stuck out and just grabbed me by the ears and just pulled me in was when he said all those Confederate soldiers. I tell you what, I mean, just the thought of everything that could be in that ground.
Oh yeah, Chuck, how often do you help the archaeologist?
Well, I've been coming here. This is my 5th trip here in the past 6 years. My wife's come along with me 4 times, and I've brought my friends out here from the I&I Treasure Hunters Club in Illinois and some others. This will be their third go around out here, and we really feel that working with these guys, we learn what they're doing, they learn from us, and we help them get a site prepared for them to go in and actually open it up and do their work on. And it's a great learning experience. Matt Reeves, the head archaeologist and director out here, and his whole crew works with us closely. We work with them closely, and we go through all the evolution of what archaeologists do, and they see what we do, and we teach them, and they teach us, and it's a hand-in-hand experience, and it's something that we need to do more of across this country, so all these barriers are broken down, and we can get into other sites. Now, granted, we don't take anything home from this. This stuff goes into a working archive. This place is a hands-on archaeological event for anybody who wants to sign up and come in. And there's a hands-on lab down here. You can see everything that gets recovered, from glassware, porcelain, wrought nails, Civil War artifacts of the time period of the Madisons and before. And it's a great thing. You learn a lot. I mean, how many of you guys go out and really understand when you start working a site by the nails that you're pulling up, how to date that site? You get taught that here.
I know, and that's... Go ahead, Jeff.
That's great. And then, I mean, how many layers so I seen you digging layers. Okay. You were going like what, a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch layers every time. And how deep are the different periods apart in the layers?
That can change from area to area within the site. And, you know, Darwin and Frank were the ones I was filming today, and they were doing about an 1/8 inch cut at a time. And they slowly go until you hit something. You work around it, and then it closes it. And then it gets to a certain point, they pull it out, they label it, bag it, tag it, and get sent down to the lab. And they were finding some glass today. They got some nails. What else to get, Darwin?
We got some pottery.
Got some old pottery, Keith. Yeah, and
Glaze.
Yeah, salt and glaze pottery from who knows which era. That could be back into the 1800, 1805 era.
Mm-hmm. I seen the rusty old Darwin found. That's pretty good.
Hey,
but how long does it take to excavate a site like that if you're hunting in that one little area that y'all were hunting in?
That can vary by the size of the area that they set up on a square for you to work, but that can run down. If they start finding more layers of history popping up, glassware beads, things like that, pottery, a piece of pottery is found late today, they're going to continue down with it. If they aren't finding much after, let's say, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches, then they move away from that, and they try to see if there's soil disturbances, charcoal, anything indicating fire pits, places, things like that, to open that up further. So that can all vary. That's a big variable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you work with when the metal detectorist and the archaeologist work together, you're really helping one another, because without the metal detectorist, the archaeologist just has to make test digs, and they may be a foot or two off and then move completely out of that area. So you're able to kind of identify those hot spots and turn them onto that, and then they're able to excavate and find, the relics and the layers and the history and everything, right?
Right. See, their shovel testing originally was they take a bucket, fill it in the spot, sift it, nothing there, nothing indicates anything that they need to know, they move on. Well, metal detecting goes in there, and by the trace nails of buildings that have fallen down, collapsed, whatever, through the period of time, we can actually draw them a pattern of that building by the number of hits we're getting, and they can go in then and figure that building out and excavate the building site around it. And it saves them thousands of hours.
And thousands of dollars, too, in just wasted labor, because if you can spend all of your time in a productive area, you're obviously going to be more successful.
That's right. And, we're trying to keep this site going, this program. We had several people from the Virginia area on this particular dig, and then we actually had a pretty good, was it 15 total start? Yeah, 15 total. Yeah. And a couple of them can only stay half the week, and another one got called away, but they'll be back tomorrow. Things like that from the Virginia area, and they're in the same pattern we are. It's been excellent, and I really believe you got to sit here and think, though, where else are you going to get to go and work with archaeologists and metal detect on America's hallowed ground like this? This is where the Constitution of our country was written. Think about that.
I know it. It just makes the hair stand up on your back, doesn't it, Jeff?
It sure does. You don't get a chance to go over a spot like that very often, if ever.
No.
I mean, that's like the biggest bucket list. I mean, forget the CS plates. I mean, forget everything else that you could keep. I mean, it would be nice. It would be real nice just to be able to help the archaeologist on this one site. All the history was at.
And Chuck, I had the opportunity a few years ago. I wrote a book on an old church that was established whenever our county was established here, whenever the Revolutionary soldiers got the land grants and moved into this part of Kentucky like 1798. And they brought kind of a church family with them, and they built an old church, a small structure, and then within a couple of years they built another structure. And I researched all the history on that because it's right next to my house, really. And in doing that, I understood that the original church building was somewhere about, I think it was maybe 150 yards from the standing structure that is now a state park, a Kentucky state park. And everybody wanted to know where that was at. And I actually had the opportunity to work with an archaeologist and take my metal detector and find the debris field of nails, and then he came in and helped me, and we identified exactly where that building sat, the size of it, and everything by the nails.
Man, that is great.
Yeah.
And I know in my community right here, we've got there was a lot of pioneer forts, and Anthony and Anthony and Isaac Bledsoe. They are from Orange County, Virginia, and they moved here in the 1780s. Well, I'm sorry, 1770s, and they built 2 forts, and then of course I think it was Anthony's fort got attacked by Indians, and then they burned it down, so they just moved into 1 fort. So, and then, of course, all this is a state park now. So,
very cool. That's that's the kind of stuff that it just boggles the mind and what you may find there. But when you start finding things there, maybe some of those things should go somewhere where everybody enjoys them a little bit. I mean, such as what they do in England, they got the way they do it, and if it's not treasure trove or anything like that, it gets turned back to the finder and the landowner. And if it's treasure trove, then it's sold off, and they get to split it. And we were talking with Keith last night, and we had him on with Josh, and Keith is here now. If you have any questions for how they do it in England, he's sitting right across the room. He'd be glad to answer that.
Okay.
So I'm surprised you got all the troops all together here, just about, except for one of them. I wanted to get Lance here, and he got busy on us, so I'm sorry about that. But he's got to earn a living too.
Yeah, well, we'll bring Keith on here in a moment. You know, a lot of our listeners are listening to this show, and they may or may never have the opportunity to go to Orange, Virginia, and work on this historic site. But tell them about how that you can date a site by the nails that you find, because people that relic hunt like us, no matter where you're relic hunting, that's good information to know. So tell us a little bit about the nails.
Hang on a second. I'm going to get you the exact sheet for that and be able to. Jill's grabbing it for me. They actually hand you a printed sheet, and you start with your forged nails. 2 hit, 3 hit, 4 hit, then it goes on, and it's a rose head, and you can really tell it by looking at it, and it actually comes up almost to a point. And that's some of the earliest nails that are out here. We're talking in the 1680s and 90s. And then they move forward into the beginning of cut nails. And she's got, so I don't misquote dates.
I'm not sure about that.
No, not that one. Not that one.
There's
not
that
one.
That's the last.
Yeah, but the cut nails are after 1800. And they've even got how to date an old building by the screws from 1840 forward, 1700s to 1840. You have a blunt end, no taper on a screw. After 1816 or 1846, the screw became pointed. Cut nails were after 1800, but they began in 1797, but they were kind of crude. Wrought nails were before circa 1800. And that's where you get that dome hit on the top. You get 4 hit or 3 hit or even a 2 hit. Now out here, if you have 3 hit nail heads, that is off of Madison's forge. If you get a 4 hit nail head, that's off of Thomas Jefferson's forge.
Wow.
Man, everybody needs that paperwork right there.
Hey,
and
I'm going to go back and listen to this show and write all that down.
I am too. I was hoping he would email us a copy of that.
Well,
but,
maybe we can get that done.
No, yeah. How did they make the rose head nails?
The rose head, all right, is a general purpose nail. Here's what it's called in there, and I'm giving you the skinny right off the paper. I don't have my glasses on, but they were used for framing, lathing or lathing, and that type of contained work. And they put a spade end. Actually, instead of a sharp point, they'd hit flat on that end. You'd have a spade head, and they had the 4 hit head as it came out. They hit 1, 2, 3, 4, and it came up like a pyramid. Or they had a 2 head, or they had them with sharp points. I mean, this whole thing here, it goes on and on and on, telling you what these were used for, how they were made, what their dating is, and it can date that site for you if you start finding them. And I know you find them. I know everybody finds nails.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They pitch the site because, there's another doggone square nail. So with all that in hand, then it went to early machine cut. It went to a machine cut style with a handmade head, with a 2-hit head. It went complete machine cut.
Just on
modern machine cut.
Yeah.
And modern machine cuts from the late 1830s came forward to present. So from 1830s to 1815s, you had the machine-headed cut nails, and then on back into the 17th, 18th, 19th, you had the wrought, what they call wrought nails. And you can see a lot of other metals here come out. Now, Penny found a wing nut. Now, you don't think much of a wing nut, but this wing nut was about 3.5 inches long and totally hand wrought. And you could see where it was pounded, how it was put together and forged. Yeah, it was really a neat thing to find. It was rather large, and they took a lot of pictures of that because they'd never found anything quite like that. Somebody made a wing nut here back in the 17 teens.
Wow.
Man, that is a great find. You know, you find these wing nuts, it's like a lot of them, you can't, I mean, you can tell they're not handmade, but I mean, I've never found one that you can see that's been pounded. So that is a great find.
Hey guys, we're coming up on a hard break. Let us run this commercial and we'll be right back.
Hey, Seven, we's looking good in our new Redux Radio t-shirts.
Yeah, Ken and Mark Guthrie of DetectiveTees.com done brung 'em to us.
Yep. And they makes other shirts, too.
Yeah, boy. DetectiveTees.com can handle tees for your club, hunt, or any other promotion folks may have.
Uh-huh. They even got the Wide Pride shirts.
Yeah, them boys does the manatee crawl.
Yeah, scooting on their bellies.
That's what I said. The manatee crawl.
Looks like slugs eating jelly.
Uh-huh. So whether you hunt horizontal or vertical, tell the folks where they need to go, TJ.
www.detectivetees.com.
I still love that commercial. And hey guys, if you've got shirt needs, go to DetectiveTees.com. Ken and Mark Guthrie will certainly take care of all of your shirt needs. And by the way, I meant to mention this earlier. I see Mark Hoover has put in there DetectiveTees.com. Get him, Ken, you and Mark need to get him to model some more shirts. He sold a bunch of them for you. But we wanted to do a shout out to Mark's wife, Gail, who is recovering from surgery. And we want to wish her a speedy recovery, don't we, Jeff?
We sure do. And then, I mean, we got some lucky enough to get some jam from her before she had her surgery. So, I was trying to get some more of that last time, and I got just a little bit of it, and the kids found it, and it was gone, man. It was gone.
I tell you what I found out about that strawberry jelly that she makes. Whenever you put the spoon down in the jar and you put that last bite in your mouth, your tongue comes out and beats your face to death looking for another bite. It is some kind of good, I tell you. Hey, Chuck, who else have you got in the room there that would share with us some of the procedures that they've been doing?
I've got Frank Juarez, Penny Danielson, Darwin Gillespie, my wife who works in the lab, Jill Smalley, and I've got Keith. And Jill's over there going, "No, I'm not saying anything." And then I've got Keith from England here, and he can talk to you about what he's learning here because he's taking it back and actually going to put it to use. And England, actually, in November 23rd, he's teaching classes at Oxford University.
Well,
archaeology.
Yeah, that's who we need to talk to. Put Keith on there for a minute, and then we'll get to one of the other ones. And while we're while we're waiting on Keith, let me give out the call-in number, 270-495-0315, and we've put that in the chat. If you want to call in, and if you have a question, we're going to get to some questions in a moment that we had off of our show prep. But how you doing tonight, Keith?
I'm really well, thank you.
Good to talk to you. What can you tell us about your part in this?
Well, I've been scanning the world, really, to try and find courses which are trying to build bridges between archaeologists and detectorists. And all I can see is what I'm doing over there in the UK and what Monpelier is doing here. And I'm just really impressed that the interest is here to try and actually discover buildings through nails, because, of course, in the UK, a lot of our buildings are stone, so we're finding them through geophysics. And there's so much for me to learn here, and the methodologies that I can put back into the courses back in the UK. And all in all, it's been a really fascinating week.
Yeah. So, Keith, when you're at home, how do y'all go about searching for a site? Do y'all just walk through a field, or do y'all do a lot of research?
Well, going back 20 years ago or so, we used to research through old maps and history books in the local library. But, of course, with the internet now, it's changed everything. It's concerning in some ways, because there are so many archaeological sites which are identified now over the internet that even the landowners don't know that they've got Roman remains and Iron Age remains and all sorts on their property. So it means that it's quite easy to identify sites which have never been touched by archaeologists even before. And so what I'm keen to do is to say, well, there's so much good work that a detectorist can do with archaeologists, but the most important thing is to get the right information and look at it from the context of the landscape that it's in.
Yeah. Keith, while we've got you on here, what is your oldest coin or your oldest find?
Yeah, well, actually, I've not got anything beyond Roman coins. I'd love to think that I could find a Celtic state, or I live in an area where we've got the Dublini Iron Age tribe and the Catavalorni Iron Age, which border right. I'm sat right in the middle of the border, so we're hoping to try and identify where these borders are by the coins which have been found in the area. But the really nice coin I found recently was a silver denarius of Trajan, and that one we can date back to the exact year, which is 8 AD 99.
Man,
that's
what
pretty
about
old.
that, Seven?
That's pretty old, I tell you what.
That's older than you, Seven, and you don't find that often.
No, sir. Keith, they do me bad. They call me the old man here. They say I campaigned with Abraham Lincoln whenever he ran for president back in the day. A question that I've got, and I think this is a good show because the new detectorist that comes in, everybody wants to find something really valuable. Everybody wants to find a gold coin. Everybody wants to find a silver coin. Everybody wants to find some spectacular find. But the history is what it's all about. And when you find these nails, and when you find the iron artifacts that you find, and when you find them in the context, it tells you a beautiful historic story, doesn't it, Keith?
It does. It's just brought a whole new perspective for it, for me, because you usually, say on a Roman site, the nails are causing us lots of troubles. And one good thing on the machine I use, it's got a fast mode, so that if you've got an interesting coin sat between two coins, it's so fast it will pick up that coin, whereas before it would just give you that the sound as if you've got iron underneath. So the message I've got to get back to everybody in the UK is to think much deeper about the nails and the ferrous finds on sites, and at the end of the day, it's the story that these these finds can bring together. And recently I was on a guest panel at the British Museum of the National Conference, and I don't know if you ever saw any of the Time Team episodes that used to be in England. We had Professor Carenza Lewis and a few others actually on these panels, interacting with the detectorists and saying that, as you say, it's great to find a old coin or something quite special, but the stories behind straightforward finds. I remember one of my first lead whorls, WHORLS, which was a Roman whorl for building netting for fishing, and so it's a completely worthless. As far as monetary value, but to think that this was an everyday artifact being used by the Romans to do their sort of the net building is that's really interesting in itself.
See, it does, Keith. That gives me chill bumps just talking like that, and I mean that is great. What detector do you use, and can you tell the difference in between the soil in the UK versus the soil here in the States?
Well, it's an XP Deus that I use, and I live in a very highly sort of hot ironstone area, so I'm quite used to that. But there's been a bit of interference, which has caused me a few troubles with other people as well, and probably Chuck would tell you more about the issues that caused. But on the whole, in the area that I'm in, it is quite difficult at times to find the small things like the hammered silver coins. The medieval hammered silver are so thin, and if you've got lots of other material around it, you can lose these things. But it's just a case of working with the machine, and I've got to say, Chuck has been really helpful for me over here. To point me in a few directions when I've got in a bit of trouble.
Yeah. Of course, you've worked there in UK, and you've worked here at Monpelier, and you've worked nails in both places. Tell us the similarities and the difference between, say, Roman nails and the oldest nails that you're finding there in Virginia.
Well, the fascinating thing is that the old nails that we are finding are very much on the wrought nails principles and the rose heads that you're finding here, because I think from what I remember is that these used to be made from bar, and they were pushed through into a position where the actual shank of the nail was held, and when it was heated up and you were hitting it on 4 different areas and the 5th one on the top, which spreads the head to it, that's very much the sort of thing that I'm finding. You can always see because that they are never perfectly round. They're always sort of off shape, and that's what we're seeing going back through the centuries. So I think that method that was adopted over here will go back through millennia.
Yeah, so the nails that you're finding that date, say, in the 1600s here, are very similar then to the Roman nails. I mean, it's a process that kind of stayed the same for a number of years. Yes,
that's right. Yeah, I mean, you might find that some of them are slightly more chunky, as I say, with bigger heads, but no, the whole sort of process of manufacture seems very similar.
And I heard you a little bit there last night on Josh's show, Beyond Sight and Sound, and if I understood right, you are the first detectorist from the UK that has worked at Monpelier, the first person from outside the U.S. to work at Monpelier. Is that right?
That's right, yes. And I think it's the fact that it's so unique, this course here, that, in searching across Europe, there was no other no other course like this. So as soon as I saw this, I got in contact and said, that I'd love to come across, because the course that I'm doing at the University of Oxford will include archaeologists and detectorists in the course. I think there's going to be around 40 in the course. And the methodologies which are being used here for sampling and the number of hits and the way that we're laying out are all going to be helpful, because we've got our way of doing things. When I say our way, actually you can find across the country that could be 5 or 6 different methodologies out there. And what I'm trying to do now is incorporate all that into a single methodology. So whether it's in the south of England or the north, everybody knows what's expected of them if they work on an archaeological site.
And I guess one question that I'm interested in knowing, what have you learned since you've been here in the States and working at that historic place?
Well, the nail side of it is has completely changed my thinking, because nails often are just seen as a hindrance in England. As you can imagine, there's just so much archaeology there, and you're always looking for your ferrous, non-ferrous finds. But I think what really brought it home to me is that the house here, when it was extended by the DuPont family, they realised that they wanted to now take it back to the James Madison house, and to do that they had to sort of dismantle it, and in doing this they actually looked for the nails which have been used in the different parts of that building to be able to determine which was new build and which was old build. So the actual house has been completely reconstructed back to its earlier sort of footprint from the nails.
Man, so in the UK, do you work with the archaeologists like we try to here?
Well, there has been that sort of feud between detectorists and archaeologists, and that's been a long-standing feud. I think the archaeologists now are realising that detectorists have got to a point where there could be as many as 30,000 in the UK, and we're a fairly small island. And they very quickly in the past have turned around and said that the metal detecting is a destructive practice, and that's sorry, I've just lost my thought while other people were talking for a moment. I heard them mentioning Bigfoot for a second. That really took my head away from what I was saying. No, I'm just trying to get my thought pattern there again. I can't remember what I was saying, to be honest.
Well, we were talking about that's easy for me to say, detectorists working with archaeologists, and there's been a lot of tension through the years because detectorists are labeled as just grave robbers, essentially, that we just go through and we just pull everything out and with no regard to the history. But that's not the case with most detectorists that do this in a serious way.
It's really not. I know Wynwood down here next to the house, it's the largest log cabin still standing from the 1700s. And we built some flower beds to go in front, and they said, no way can you just dig to plant flowers. You can't do that. So we had to make flower beds to put the flowers in. So, and then, of course, they do, we have a mound here at the house. It's made from the mound builders. And, of course, they were around for like 5,000 years. And the archaeologists, they dig there quite often. And I've been wanting to just stop by and introduce myself. I know the head archaeologist over that, and just to watch them and see how they're doing their stuff. I mean, of course, I've got we've got a lot of old colonial sites that we need to excavate and I really need to find out how to do that properly.
Yeah. And Keith, what do you think the future looks like here now in your part of the world and in our part of the world about the collaboration between metal detectorists and archaeologists?
Well, there are sort of many freedoms to the metal detecting community in the UK, and I think the detectorists are very keen to make sure that they retain those freedoms. But in reality, when you've got tens of thousands of detectorists out there trying to find whatever they can over each weekend, we're sort of losing millions of artifacts, and it is there's figures around 2 million artifacts a year which are not being recorded. But my point to the archaeologists are that we shouldn't go down the lines of legislation because and this brings me back to what I was going to say before. Actually, is the archaeologists say that it's a destructive method that we use in digging up artifacts, but in the majority of cases on archaeological sites that they're using mechanical diggers to actually do their test trenches. And what's the big difference between the archaeologists in the US and the UK is where in the UK we're actually doing long trenching rather than 5-foot units. So that long trench is actually started off with a mechanical digger. And if they're doing any evaluations of sites ready for construction, they'll actually continue until they hit archaeology. And if they don't hit archaeology, they continue until they hit natural. So it's very difficult for them to say that what detectorists do is destructive when they're actually, if there's a beta burial from the Celtic past, that they know about it once they've hit it with a 5-foot bucket.
Yeah, it is. I tell you what, Keith, we certainly have enjoyed talking to you, and may continue with you, or we may get Chuck's wife on to talk about the cataloging of all of that and the restoration and everything that she does. But we've got to take a break for one more commercial, and we'll be right back. If your passion is metal detecting, then you know how much your success is based on the equipment you use. Let my buddy Tim Henderson of Murray Branch Outdoors in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, help you with that. Tim is an authorized dealer of Garrett, XP Deus, and Macro detectors and supplies, and he is now an authorized dealer for MineLab. So if you're looking to get your hands on one of the new Equinox 600 or 800, then Tim's your guy. Murray Branch Outdoors is not only competitive in their prices, but the service after the sale is second to none. Tim not only sells detectors, he uses them, and so he can answer any question that you might have. Murray Branch Outdoors also deals in used detectors, and he'll take your old detector in on trade when you decide to upgrade. So give Tim Henderson of Murray Branch Outdoors a call at 615-948-4611 and be sure and tell him that Relics Radio sent you. And Tim is a great guy. We like working with him. We like hunting with him and everything. And if you've got a need for a new detector or any supplies, we'll give Tim a call. Who we got on the other end now? Are you still there, Keith, or did Chuck invite his wife?
You got my wife took off on you.
Oh, did she?
We was wanting to know about the cataloging stuff.
Yeah.
And she's been doing that. She's been cleaning the catalog and helping over in the lab the whole time. But she's like, I tried to get her on before. So tonight when you brought that up, she took out of here like a shot at quail, man.
Well,
I've done that once or twice.
Well, tell her to come on back in the room. We won't put her on the spot anymore then. Well, you tell us about the whole system of cataloging those things. That should be interesting.
Well, I'll do the very best I can for you. While you're in the field, we're detecting a grid, and they're 10 by 10 foot squares. And in that, you work that whole site until you can't get any more targets. You mark each one with a bamboo stake painted orange. And then if you've got particular ones you want to dig, you double stake it. There's 3 per grid that we're going to dig before we leave there. And then you do those digs, and they log and catalog what those are, okay? And some get photographs like Penny's find the other day, and then keys and some other things, hand wrought keys, different things this week have been found and marked, and then you move, and they pull those, they mark down the number of hits in there, the 3 that you have dug, what they were, and you move to the next grid, and you go grid after grid after grid, and the higher concentrations start showing up with a pattern, and then they actually can take the grid pattern that they had laid out and taken pictures of, and then put the hits in there, and it will actually outline a building or a area where they had a blacksmith shop. And you can actually outline by the number of hits around it, because a lot of them just fell straight down or in a little bit. And you'll have blank spaces inside and living quarters, things like that. That starts telling them the tale. And then they start deciding whether they want to actually do an excavation on this site.
Man, that's pretty neat. I mean, I would love to be there and just see it going on. I mean, I don't have to be a part of it, just to watch how everything works.
You know, it's open. It's open to the public to drive in and watch. I mean, you come through the main gate. I don't know what the pass for the day is, $10. You can drive in, walk down out of the visitor center. You can see where we're at. We've had guests all week long stopping in and asking.
Man, that's great. What about preservation? How do you go about that?
Well, then the things that are dug get taken down the next day to the lab, and my wife and other volunteers start opening the bags, and they've got wire brushes for iron objects, things like that, and they start cleaning them, and they start really examining to make sure what we were looking at was what we said it was, and it gets bagged, tagged, and set aside, and the whole group gets to practice on this, and then there's more logging done on that, where it came from by its number, northeast number 9 by, I'll give you an example, it's the northeast corner, 10th stake, and that's where it was at, and they log it, and it's put in a thing, and it's dried, because everything's coming out of the ground wet. I mean, and then they dry it, and then if they decide it's something that they really want to conserve, it may go through an entire process and be kept for examination by people coming here to take a look at what we found.
Man, does that stay in the local area in Orange, or does it go somewhere else in like a museum?
It stays here. You go in the lab, they got drawers you pull out, and they rotate some of that material around. They got a lot of it, and there's things found on display. People come in. It's a hands-on place. They find pottery. They found Dolly Madison's midden. A midden is a trash pit, what we would call a dump trash pit, where all during her years she threw away stuff. They actually found plates and things from the White House that were theirs. They knew it was there by the pattern that were broken. They just pitched them out there. They put them back together. They found enough of them. They actually got 2/3 or better of them put back together.
Oh,
goodness gracious!
You imagine?
And you know what? You know what? We got a lot of people that are listening that when you go to a site, you know, and you're finding these little pieces of pottery, which you'll inadvertently dig. You won't get a signal on them unless they've got some lead fused to them. I have done that. But you'll dig these nails and all these iron artifacts and everything. We've opened up a whole new world of history to these people tonight, thanks to you, Chuck.
You know, the whole thing is not thanks to me. It's actually thanks to a few years back when this all started with the efforts of a group of people saying that we could get more in. and bring it together. And one of the detector companies, My Lab, was very instrumental in bringing some of this together. And Matt and his group here, and we're trying to keep it going. We need some help, and we need people to sign up and that kind of stuff for the next season's digs. And maybe they can expand it a little bit. No, they're a nice place to stay. It's not that expensive. I'm serious. You're not going to break the bank in coming here. And it's a great time. And we go into Orange, and we get to hang with some pretty cool people and go in. If they get a chance, they get to go into Jas Mosby's there, Mr. Sylvius, and maybe have a chance to talk with him. And you got Dennis and Lance here, two of the best relic hunters you ever want to meet. And it's not all talk about what we're doing for Monpelier. It's talk about, man, we want to get out and do some of these fields.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
And I can see that me and Jeff would like to come up there and be involved in that. We'd like to do a show up there live, wouldn't we?
Oh, we sure would. And, of course, I was getting back to the excavating the site. I'm a firm believer. You metal detect the old home site, say a colonial site, and you can go, you can hunt it for years, but you never find all the relics. They're always, if you go and excavate this site, you're going to find a lot more relics than you do metal detecting.
Oh, yeah.
And you can learn to do that here. If you really want to work a site on your own, and you have the permission and the time and the property to do it on, it's a learning experience. We have a young man from the Quad Cities, Madison Kimball's here with us, and he's an archaeologist, and we're going to start working the site over in one area that was the Prophets, we think's the Prophets Village, the Prophetstown area where the Black Hawk Indian Wars and things were going on, and they think they nailed that down, and he's got all the permission to do that because some of that's protected site, and he's up here learning detectors and learning methodology. He's in the University of Iowa out there, Iowa State, I think it is, where he's going to school for archaeology, and he's taking back this stuff that he's learned and going to put it to work in our area and work with our club.
And, talking about Addison doing that to further his career, anybody that would come there that's interested in doing that kind of stuff, it would be a good resume builder, wouldn't it? In case you wanted to maybe reach out, like me, to my state park here, and you'd have to go through the state to be able to do that. But if I had on my resume, I've had training there, with these archaeologists, that would have to help, wouldn't it?
It will help you. You do get a little diploma here for what you've done with it. You do get recognized for the work that you're doing with the archaeologists, and they move you up the ladder a little bit. I get to wear the green badge. I've been here enough. I'm actually considered staff while I'm here.
Well, tell us about the different color badges then. I hadn't heard about that.
You got green after 5 years. And then you go to 10 years, and I think it's white, and then you get gold, and it's after 15 years of working here as a volunteer.
Well, what about less than 5 years? If I come there and I go 1 year, what color badge am I going to wear home?
You're getting red knees and red hands from digging in this.
I had a piece of paper. Hold on.
Yep, a piece of paper saying that you've been studying with the archaeologists at Monpelier, and that is a study. We're going through classes on the nails and the history and methodologies for the archaeological community, and then teaching them how to use detectors. And there was 1, 2, 3 archaeologists here that had never worked with detectors much this week, and I was working with them, Dennis, Lance. We got them tuned up. They understand what they're doing.
Well, it sounds like an exciting time. I tell you what, it just makes me, anxious. I'd love to be there, wouldn't you, Jeff?
I sure would. It's an opportunity of a lifetime.
Short drive for him.
Yeah, just short drive for you. We got this is 900 miles one way. You can go to Monpelier's site and look up the detecting programs, and they're generally in the fall. And the only problem is they hit you right about deer season, so you got to plan carefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, ours opens a couple weeks before y'all's do. So
My luck, I'd get up there and I'd get shot and I'd have a great big red badge on me. all blood stained and everything. Let me,
Chuck,
go ahead,
we've
Jeff.
got our little show prep thing. We've got a question from Bob McCracken. It says, being from Michigan, I'm curious to hear a little bit about diving in the Great Lakes. And what have you found and stuff in the Great Lakes?
I haven't dove the Great Lakes much. I haven't done much of that in the Great Lakes. I have dove off the southern shores, and I have been in equipment up around Nome and dove that, and I've been down on the Caribbean and Jamaica and those type of places and dove years ago. And we made some nice recoveries, but it wasn't enough to make anybody rich or worried about archaeologists, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and shifting gears just a little bit, we had another question. Sam wanted to know, and by the way, guys, Chuck is a Mine Lab expert instructor with those detectors, and he wanted to know the Equinox versus the Xterra series. What differences are you seeing in those?
Okay, the Xterra was one of my the 705 was one of my favorite lightweight gold prospectors going around and checking stuff. I found a lot of gold with that little unit. Stepping forward to the Equinox series, you got the 6 and the 800, and then comparing the 800 to the 705 because they're both the top of the line for the series that they were. I think with the new multi-frequency technology, you've got a little bit of a leg up there on the way it recovers things. I think it gets a little better depth. Excuse me. It is a little, not much of a learning curve, but there's a little difference with it. But then you can go single frequency, just like the 705, without having to switch coils. You've got all of them in there. You've got a gold prospecting mode now, and it's totally waterproof. That's putting it more and more steps above the 705. With all that's in that and wireless, and it's a pretty good package for the money.
What are you finding as far as the Equinox in that hot soil up there? We've hunted up around Culpeper there, and we use the GPXs there, and we know that the VLFs have a real problem with that. What are you finding with the Equinox?
Yeah, I came a week early just to take that 800 out and start figuring it out. And we got out in that hot soil, and Lance took me to just the hottest soil is what you're finding around Culpeper, that almost blood red soil. I mean hot. And fortunately, one of the Mine Lab engineers, the designing engineer, came through, and I'd already sent an 800 out for the guys here at Monpelier to start working with. And he said, here's what you got to do. And we actually hunted it in prospecting mode, knocking out a couple notches on the 8 and 9 on there and detecting with it. I had to slow down the recovery speed from what they had it set at. We had some difficulties on the site because they put a new repeater in for the radio system, and it sits right on the corner of the field that we're working in. When they get to chattering on that thing, it was really messing up. Almost every detector you could imagine out there was having some sort of a problem when that repeater was squawking. Man. And I had to go back through, and I came up with some program changes, and I got everybody pretty much settled down. But, boy, if they really got talking on it, it still gave us a background noise. And that meant on everything from the GPXs on down. The only one that didn't affect a lot was an E-Track, but he was finding less when that thing was cooking out there. And it affected it. But, as far as depth, I had that 800 up in a private field last week, and I had Lance with a 5,000, and I said, when you get a hit, and I was picking up some stuff to begin with. When you get a hit, I want to come up, don't dig it, don't do anything. He had a good hit, and I was hitting it, and we flipped her over, and it was a round ball, and then we found an infield, and then we found, and I was hitting all he was hitting, and we were getting down a good 10, 12 inches. So that I took off on my own, and away we went, and I was picking up, everything was Confederate that we found. And I dug a CS button with it, and it literally disintegrated in my hands.
Wow. Oh, man. Oh, that's got to make you sick.
So
how deep were these finds?
Mostly 10, 11 inches. The button might have been 8 inches.
Wow, that's really good.
You can't beat that for a VLF in hot soil. Now, were you finding those running in the gold prospect mode?
Yeah, I was in gold 2. And let's see how I can explain it the best way to you. We were set in gold prospecting 2. We were running through your ground balance, and then we went auto track out here. But out in the field, I was trying both directions. Now, in auto track in this ground, if you sweep a target too much, it will tune it out.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
All right, but it can tune it down to where if you get a hit, you come back and all of a sudden it disappears. So then you pull it over, sweep on the other side, and then come back to it and get your pinpoint done quick. You dig it up.
Right. Now, are you manually ground balancing that Equinox there in that hot soil? Or I know a lot of people are just running the Equinox in ground balance at 0, but I would say that you're having to manually ground balance that to the hot soil. Am I correct?
We ground balanced it first and then hit it and let it go into auto track, and I did pretty well with it that way. Don't just run a ground balance 0. I don't care what other people are telling you. You're missing stuff.
Yeah, I can understand that. What about recovery? What about recovery speed? Where are you running that?
Okay. Originally, we'd set them all up to 6. Well, with the problems we were having, I dropped the recovery speed, dropped the sensitivity a couple points. I was running sensitivity at a lot of them were 21, 22, but we had pretty wet soil. We had a lot of rain here. So we dropped it down to 18, 19, 17 on some of them, depending upon what they had, and they were just as deep. When you've got that great wet soil, almost mud, you don't need that sensitivity as high, because at that point, those are very sensitive machines. They're picking up every little nit and bit that you don't want to. I'm talking teeny tiny pieces of nail left in the ground, tiny.
Yeah.
And, if you're out looking for gold, that's great. Tiny nuggets add up, but tiny pieces of iron that don't mean anything, well, you don't want to spend time digging that when you want to look for better objects.
That's true.
Yeah, that is right. We've got a question in the chat from Becky. Chuck, what is your opinion on the CTX versus the Equinox 800?
I'm a CTX lover. I've been using it for many years, and the other day I hunted for a while with the 800, then I switched over to the CTX, and I've got a particular relic mode I set it into, and away I went, and I was finding, I think I was getting a little more depth with the 30-30, but it was doing very good for these type of machines in this soil. But look, if I'm coming out here to really seriously do a DIV, I'm strapping on a PI unit.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's time for another commercial break, isn't it, Sam?
It is, and we'll be right back. If you want to keep up with what's going on in the metal detecting world, then you need to be a subscriber to American Digger Magazine. Butch and Anita Holcomb are the publishers of the magazine and have won awards for 3 straight years for being the best digger magazine on the market. American Digger Magazine is available in both print and digital formats, so no matter where you live in the world, you can enjoy the latest happenings in the hobby. You can get in touch with American Digger Magazine by going to americandigger.com or give them a call at 770-362-8671. And be sure and tell them that you heard it on Relics Radio. And I want to put a plug in for Tennessee Jeff. This issue of American Digger Magazine, his militia tongue is on the cover of that. Congratulations, Jeff.
Well, thank you very much. And we're still looking for the wreath.
Yeah, still looking for the wreath. And also, Steve Zazulik has a wonderful, wonderful article on our friend Betty Weber that passed away earlier, tragically. And read that article. That is a great article. And Steve's going to have some other stuff that that'll be coming out in American Digger. And also, let me put a plug in for my article, which will come out the January-February issue. It is The Great Silver Hoard with Wes Stringer, Jeff Ford, and Chris Heimsoff. So check that article out as well.
So, Chuck, is Penny around? Or did she run off too? I knew we had to get her on there.
Yeah, I'm trying. She's turning all red-faced, but I'm working on her. Here you go, Penny.
We're just two rednecks with a metal detector. It doesn't matter.
That's right.
Hi, how are you?
Hey.
Hello, Penny. How are you?
Okay.
So, what is your job up there in Orange County right now?
Well, I've been doing some of the metal detecting on the grids that they've marked out. And at this point, I've had 5 items that I've found that they have, they rebury them, but they mark them for photography. And then they have someone come out to dig them back up and photo them. But I'm not sure what they do with them after that, if they keep them or if they just put them back in the ground.
Yeah.
But that's been really awesome to be able to find that kind of stuff, and I was so excited. The first thing I found after a couple of nails was this. It's called a ram's head hand-wrought wing nut that I think Chuck mentioned to you.
That is amazing find.
Y'all tell us about that.
It was. I mean, I pulled that out, and I thought those guys were going to go nuts. They were all so excited over this, and I thought, well, what is this? I thought it was just a regular, new style wing nut, but then they were kind of messing around with it and took a little skewer and poked on the wings there, and there were holes in them. So they could tell that they had been curled on each side, and that's how they named it, was that ram's head, because it looks like the curled horns on a ram.
Man, that's amazing. I tell you. What kind of detector are you using?
I have the 800.
Oh, okay. So
I went from the 705 to the 800 just this past spring, and I really like the 800.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you like that transition? Do you like using the 800 more than the 705?
I do. I've only used my 705 a couple of times when the battery was dead on my Equinox.
So how long have you been going up there, Penny?
Oh, this is my first time.
Oh, this is the first time. Congratulations.
And I'm loving every minute of it.
So you don't have one of the colored badges yet? So.
No, I
Just
don't. I have
red knees and red hands.
Yeah, a white paper with my name typed on it in a little plastic thing that has a pin on the back.
Well, that'd be good enough for me.
I'm not fancy at all.
Yeah, that'd be good enough for me. Just the notoriety of saying that I had been there. Does it kind of take your breath, though, whenever you're at a historic place like that and understand that the very formation of our republic started in those areas right there?
It does. I mean, they've been very awesome about not only letting us do the detecting and working with the archaeological staff, but also doing the history of the area and the plantation. So we've had tours of the plantation house and how that was changed over 200-300 years from the different owners, and then redone back to the way it was on James Madison when he owned it. This evening, late this afternoon, they took us on a Civil War tour. So they showed us where, starting with the Confederate camps that were in this area, and then the Union camps that were on the other side of the river. We didn't go over there, but we were doing the Confederate ones. And then going from that time up to through the Civil War, and then into after the Civil War, when the African American were freed. And then there is a freeman's cabin here that we got to go see that they have refurbished. And so the history it really changes your idea of how that history took place and the slaves in the area, how they were treated or mistreated or treated very well, but they were still slaves.
Right. But you're able to reconstruct all that history just by what you're doing, and so many people think that we go out and destroy. That's not our aim, We're trying to preserve history, and that's what y'all are doing there. And I commend you for doing it, and I commend the project.
Yes, it's been wonderful. I found out about it after I joined our local metal detecting club, and ever since I found out about it, I wanted to come, and this year I actually had the chance to do it. So it was great to be able to share it with Chuck and with Frank and with Darwin, who I've known since him and my son went to school together, and then to meet Keith from England, and it's just been an amazing experience.
It really sounds like it.
What one wow moment have you had since you've been there that just kind of blew you away?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. They've all been really good.
All of it, I guess.
Well, I think it was that first artifact that I found. That just blew me away when I found out what it was, and the fact that they can tell the history of this place, like Chuck said, from the nails.
Yeah.
Who knew what you could find out from a nail?
I know it. I mean, that's the appeal of this show here tonight to me, is just all of the history that you find. And, let's face it, all of us that have detected for years, especially those of us that are relic hunters, we call that junk. But look what you're able to find from the junk that you dig up, which really is as much historic as anything.
That's true. Very much true.
Well, I tell you what, it's a marvelous experience that you're having, and you just treasure every moment of it. Are you coming back?
I sure would like to. Yes, after the first day, I was ready to do that.
I bet you were, and I'm ready to go now. So.
I am too. How much?
You very much should get over here, if not to do the course, at least to come and visit when they have this going on, so that you can watch what happens.
Oh no! If I come, I want to go through the whole thing. I want to get. I want to get my education started in that.
And you bring some old clothes, because you're going to have red knees by the time you get done.
Oh, I know. We've hunted Culpeper, and I've still got red mud in my vehicle for the last 2 trips that we've made there. You can't get it out of the carpet on your vehicle. So, but it's the relic mobile, so it really doesn't matter to me.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's right. We've got a question from our partner in crime, Mark Hoover. He says, "Do they feed y'all good when you get hungry?"
We get a meal when we get here, and we get a meal when we leave. Otherwise, we're on our own.
Man, so we'd go hungry, wouldn't we, Seven?
No, we'd.
But they do have very good food in the visitors center.
Yeah, we'd hit orange. We find some places to eat it. Me and Jeff never been anywhere that we didn't find us something other to eat on, did we?
No, never. I mean, a convenience store got some peanuts or something other, but yeah, we can always find some good food.
Yeah.
Barbecue Exchange.
Yeah, they serve, the Barbecue Exchange serves their food here in the visitor center.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well,
what? Very good.
Go ahead.
I said it was very good.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming on and talking with us tonight. And how many more days are you going to be there?
We have tomorrow yet, and then we leave on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
So the thing is done tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've just about wrapped up this year, and you've been there for what, a week?
Yeah, we started on Monday.
Okay. And so it's a Monday through Friday thing. Yeah.
Man, so y'all can catch DIV right after.
Yeah, we come on Sunday, and you can get here anytime on Sunday usually, and that gives you maybe some free time just to kind of look around and get oriented. And then they do have a Sunday dinner. And then I'm not real sure what we're going to do tomorrow night, but I think they give out all the certificates to those that participated.
Yeah, that's it sounds like a barrel of fun, I tell you, and very educational. And we appreciate you coming on with us. Is there anybody else in the room that we haven't talked to yet?
Hey, Frank, you need to talk to Frank.
Okay, put Frank on.
Hey, hello, how you guys doing tonight?
Well, we're just right, Frank. We're right as rain, I tell you. What are you doing?
Well, like I said, we've been here at Monpelier, where I have been, since Sunday afternoon late, and then we had a nice dinner here Sunday, and Monday we started digging 10 by 10 squares, about 30 squares per section. And the only thing that I found so far, I told my buddy Darwin, I says, I'd love to find a seeded coin. Well, I did find a seeded coin until I flipped it over. It was an 1861 or one or two. Can't remember the date on it, but it was 1862, I think. And then I flipped it over, and it said copy, and it had 1960.
Oh, no. But somebody planted that for you.
Yeah.
Somebody planted that one.
I hate it whenever that happens. I tell you, I was, hey Frank, I was hunting on the beach one time, and I found a cob, and then I turned it over, and it had a big R on it for reproduction. It just, it just drains you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it did. But still, I go, hey, I found something there at Montpelier, so I thought, and then them guys, they went nuts too. So,
I bet.
So
great time.
What have you been? Have you been detecting, or are you just working the trial, or what are you doing?
Well, today we worked the trowel. Today we went into the pit, if we call it. We started scraping there for an hour today, and of course Darwin he found the shards, of a broken salt glaze pieces. And all I found was a couple nails, but it was fun.
Now let's go back to your second trip. What did you find in the pit on the second trip?
Oh, I found my first arrowhead in my life that I ever found, but I had to leave it here.
Well, congratulations. It's bittersweet. You saved some history, and then that's really the whole part of it. So.
And this is my time here, so yeah, I love it. I'll be back.
You broke up just a little bit. Did you say it's your first time?
Third time.
Oh, third time. Okay. Well, you're getting close to a patch then, aren't you?
We're getting close, yeah.
Yeah. Did you wear the same breeches that you wore the last two times?
No, I didn't. Those wore out finally. I got another pair of hole in them now, so I broke in another pair this week.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, that red clay will flat work on a pair of clothes. I tell you, you can't wash it out.
Yes. Yep.
And I don't know where y'all are staying in Orange, but I don't see how the hotels and stuff like that keep the red clay out of their sheets and then the towels, and I don't know how they do it. So.
Well, the motel that we stayed at the last two times, whenever you go into the cafeteria part there, or the lodge part of it, I guess, or the office, I don't know what you call it, they have a bunch of old towels that they lay out there, and they want you to wipe your shoes, and they give you those. They're trying to protect the carpet and everything. I understand what they're doing.
Well, fellas, we are actually staying directly on site. There is Arlington House where you can stay, and it's kind of a dormitory type setup. And then there's Constitution Village, and you can rent a house, and there's 6 of us in this one, and the rest are at Arlington House. We're right on Montpelier.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's good that you're just right there.
And very reasonable in price.
Yeah. What's been your impression of all of this?
Frank or me?
No, Frank.
Oh, sorry. Impression. Hey, it's just the scenery here is just beautiful. Finally, when the sun finally popped out all day today. So, but of course we were, in the morning it was kind of chilly, but not bad. But then by afternoon the sun popped out and you could see the mountains, and it's just a gorgeous area here at Montpelier.
It is, I tell you. It just takes your breath away whenever you look at the Blue Ridge Mountains there in the background, and sun coming up over them or going down over them, whatever it is. And it's just a beautiful place. And just to think, that you're in that area where all of this history started.
That is great.
Yeah.
When I went to Orange, I stayed at it used to be Holiday Inn Express, and they're in Orange, and it's called something else now. But I mean, it was on top of a hill, and of course you can see the Blue Ridge Mountains in the background, and I mean, it was a great place.
Yeah. Right now, they got a lineup for 2019, and they got their different times what to do and stuff. And we were told that if you sign up, I think at the end of the year, you'll get a couple $100 knocked off. To me, it kind of sounds like an incentive.
It does. It kind of lures you in, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think he's hinting to us, Seven.
Do what?
I think he's giving us a hint.
I tell you, I would love to go there and just have the experience. It doesn't bother me about bringing relics home. I mean, I'm perfectly satisfied. The work that I've done with archaeologists in the state of Kentucky here, all of that stays with the site, and it's put on display there for everybody to come in and see. And I don't have a problem with that at all.
No, I don't either.
Because, you got to find it, you got to touch it, you got to dig it, and you got to experience it, and that's the appeal to me.
Yes.
Yep.
No argument here.
Yep. Well, it was good talking to you. Let us holler at Chuck again before we get to the end of the program here.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, fellas.
Hello, Chuck.
Hey, Chuck,
y'all having a great time, man.
There's a couple of...
we are.
Yeah, y'all sound like you're having a ball. Somebody wanted me to ask you about you confronting a bear. Tell us about that story.
That's happened several times, gentlemen. I've confronted a couple other animals, too. Muskox that wasn't very happy. It was dead standstill stop. But a few years back up outside of Nome, about 18, 20 miles, we were heading into a dredge camp, and we were taking equipment in and food, and we were going to stay there for about 8-10 days. And we were getting ready to dredge some stream bed that I love to prospect and gold hunt. And we'd come up, and the guy in front hadn't seen it, but Howard in the middle, and Howard's from Maine, hit the brakes. I'm behind him pulling a trailer, and come to a dead halt, and he's pointing bear. We're coming down along a creek, and the salmon were running, and the willows in that area are all about 6 feet tall. There are very few tall trees there, if any. And that bear, his head was coming out a foot taller than those willows. I caught a glimpse of him, and we were trying to get Arlen to turn around, and Arlen doesn't hear so well. And we got him turned around, and we're telling him, Dan, did you see that bear standing in those willows up there about 40 yards? Oh, there's no bear. And then the bear charged it. He come out. he was not happy, and he stood, and the grizzlies start warning you. They start clicking their teeth and popping their jowls, and they're really angry. So I got the guys revving their engines, got the rigs turning around. I couldn't turn mine around because on a Honda, you've got to push a button, you got to get out of the gear you're in, and on occasion I either sit there, I pulled my 44 and I laid across the handlebars and I kept yelling, and I had the guys rev engines and start heading out. And well, the bear dropped down and went back into the trees. So at that point I thought, oh, whew, I'm shaking. This bear, 20 yards on a grizzly bear is zero. That's an animal that can accelerate from 0 to 45 miles an hour in 0.6 of a second.
Goodness gracious.
That's up a mountain. Well, he dropped in, went in the willows, so I sat back up, laid the pistol in my lap, and I was shifting. Here he come again. And he cut some of the yardage and stood up and was clicking those teeth. And I kept revving the engine, and then he dropped down, and it scared me because I was about to drop the hammer on him. I had the 44 on him. He dropped and ran into the trees. I had it reversed, was able to get turned around and hightail out of there. But Arlen and Howard both said I didn't stop shaking for about an hour.
Oh, I bet you. And you had to clean your pants after that, I'm sure.
I kind of know how you feel. You said that bear, when he got mad at you, went to clicking his teeth and popping his jaws. I've had my wife do that at me, and it's a scary sight.
So we went back to camp, and then when we went, we were hauling stuff out to open the campsite up out there and do some work. And we went back in 2x2s and brought extra people and that kind of stuff as we had to pass through that area. And I'll be darned if we didn't get to the other side going up on the trail on the mountainside. Of course, at this point, we saw this big blonde grizzly walking down the trail with bikes coming down at it, and it dove off into some willows, and they drove right by him. And they weren't 15 yards from that bear. They never saw it. So they were moving about. And you got to pay attention in areas like that. And I've had run-ins with muskox, and I literally was fishing for salmon out on the mouth of a river and wasn't paying attention. And I heard something behind me. Turned around, I had a big seal right behind me, and he was over there. And they all laughed at me because I went about 4 feet in the air and took off. And they said all he wants is a fruit fish. He said he comes out every time we're here. We toss him a couple fish. He's all right. And I'm like, well, you tell me these things ahead of time, will you?
That's a big animal, too.
Oh, I tell you, that's Wild Kingdom where you been, isn't it?
I've had some great times in Alaska, and Frank's been with me up there, and we've done some crawling around in the mountains and found some gold. And Frank's real gold up there. Frank loves to fly fish, and he got into some salmon pretty heavy up there, and that's a big plus too. So getting up there and doing that is always a fun thing, and we have a good time in the land of the midnight sun. And literally, when you go out to that place that we're staying at, we'll go out. Would we go that one day, 60 miles on bikes out?
Oh, yeah.
And stayed out and prospected, and there's nothing there. Nobody there.
Yeah.
Good.
It sounds like my kind of place. It really does.
It does.
I'd love to get up there and prospect.
I would too, and I love to fly fish, and I don't want to encounter any bears, especially grizzly bears or anything. But oh man, I tell you what wonderful stories that we've heard tonight, and the education that we've got from you guys there at Monpelier, and just everything about it. But we do appreciate you guys being on with us tonight, and we're going to look into that, ain't we, Jeff? We
sure are.
We may try to get up that way next year, and maybe just stay over and go on to DIV because it's going to be next week.
Loves to come out here. And, one question you asked me that you may ask during the show, what my best find ever was?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's my wife. Because she likes to do it with me. I'm dead serious. I tell everybody my best find. Now, with that being said, she loves to come do this kind of work. She's traveled with me everywhere except for Nome, Alaska, because a few years ago I was up there on July 19th and it was snowing. She doesn't go up there in the summertime and want to see snow.
Right. And, you are very fortunate that you two share that together, because that's rare, that most of our wives and then the ladies that detect, most of their husbands really could care less about the historical aspect of what we do in the hobby. And so whenever you have a husband and wife that both share that same passion, it's just a special bond that you have together, isn't it?
Yes, it's a lot of fun. And sometimes I frustrate her a little bit, because here in Orange, if she go visit, she has friends here, and then she gets to work in the lab and hang out with Matt and all the company up there and that kind of stuff. But when we get out in the far reaches in Wyoming and some of these other places I go to in Alaska, there ain't no place to shop.
That sounds just like my wife. I took her metal detecting one time, and she was on the phone 95% of the time, and I was like, "Well, this is not your thing." And she's like, "No, I'm ready to go home."
Yeah, so that's my situation too, I tell you. But it's been our pleasure to have you on, and I'm looking forward to meeting you, all you guys, and hopefully getting up that way. We do come to DIV. And we might just swing by there one day and just take a tour, come a little early or something. But we're seriously looking maybe into coming up there and going through that project and being a part of it, and maybe doing a live show up there next year.
Well, that way, and you need to talk to Matt Reeves, and all this aspect is open. You can come down to the archaeology lab and go through there. They'll show you through it. You can look at any sites that they're working on, that they're currently working on. It's a hands-on place, a walk-through place. We've had a lot of people come out to watch and see what we're doing with the detectors, and they're learning too. And so they're seeing these guys out detecting, working with the archaeologists. It's a plus.
Well, great having you on tonight. And before I let you go, also, I understand that you are a captain with the fire department, and I want to thank you for your service.
Well, that's good. I'm actually a chief.
Oh, are you? Well, you got more patches than you can shake a stick at, then, don't you?
There's one bugle on a lieutenant, two on a captain, 3 on an assistant chief, and I carry 4 bugles. And all that means is I get yelled at from top to bottom. So,
well, thank you for your service. You are a vital part of the safety of your community, and I know that you put your life in harm's way many times through your career, I'm sure. So thank you for that service.
And Chuck, tell all the listeners about the Shooters and Prospectors site that you've got going on.
Hey, well, most of my site is on Facebook, but I work with 2 other entities. I work with R&R Sports in Bettendorf and AIP Mining Supplies out in Oroville, California. You can look up AIP Mining. You can look me up on Shooters and Prospectors. I do sell firearms. I am a hunter. I do the metal detecting, the gold prospecting, and we have gold prospecting equipment out in Oroville. We sell Mine Lab. We sell Deus. We sell Garrett. We sell Notka Macro and Detector Pro. My good friend Ronnie DeGhetto, we get the good gray ghosts and things like that through him. And Joey Wilson out there. Joey used to be one of the producers of Prospecting America and Gold Fever. And since that's all changed, he and I, he got together and put a hardcore store in. I supply him a lot of the detecting equipment out there, and we work together in California, and I get to go out there and hang out with him once in a while. We go try and dig a little gold. And we've been in the gold fields. I've been hunting gold since the early 80s up in Alaska all the way through. I've been able to go out and dive on wrecks and things in the Caribbean, but I pretty much quit some of that stuff. It's a little tough on you as you get a little older. And mostly now I like to train people, and most of the people sitting in this room with me have bought detectors from me and learned from me, and we've worked together and had a lot of fun. And I try to bring them into this at a level that they all learn from.
Well, I was going to ask you what you do in your spare time, but I understand now you don't have any spare time.
I run around with Darwin Gillespie, who's sitting here with me, and Frank, and go to the meetings. I do belong to the I&I Club, and I work with a lot of the other clubs in the Midwest when I can, and there's no reason to have spare time. We're only here for so long, so you might as well make the most of it.
I agree with that, yes. It's been a joy having you with us tonight, and the whole crowd that you had there. You guys have been exceptional guests. And tell your wife we're not going to give her a pass the next time we have you on. We're going to start with her.
I'm going to tell her that. Tell her that. That'll.
Yeah.
All righty.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you, and good luck on opening morning next week.
I'm going to need some good luck, and I want to give a shout out to a couple of my friends I know that are listening. I know Barb's on there. Good luck at DIV. Mark, I hope your wife gets back up and going after surgery and to get healthy real quick.
Yeah, we agree with that. Sure do. But you guys have you've been wonderful, and it has been our honor to have you on tonight, hasn't it, Jeff?
It sure has. So we really appreciate it, and every one of you, Frank, Penny, and you, Chuck, and all the listeners out there, everyone in the comment section. We do this show for you guys. So.
That's right, and a shout out again to all of our listeners that we have picked up in the UK and in Australia and other parts of the world. We just continue to grow, and we certainly do appreciate all of you being there for us, and it wouldn't be the same without them, would it, Jeff?
It sure wouldn't. I mean, this is why we do it. So
that's exactly right. It's our pleasure always, and had great guests and everything with Chuck. Hey, Chuck, y'all hang on just a minute. We'll close the show out, and then we'll come back. If you like programs like this, we want to steer you over to Beyond Sight and Sound with Josh on Sunday night and Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. All Metal Mode is on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern. American Digger Relic Roundup is on at 9 o'clock Eastern. History Seekers are on at 9 p.m. Eastern. Hardcore Metal Detecting has shows on Thursday night and Saturday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. And we got a new show on every other Friday night, and it is the XP Team USA. And they were on this last Friday night, so I assume they won't be on tomorrow night, but they're on every other week. And so check all of those shows out, and obviously come back and check us out next Thursday night. And I'm trying to look here and see who our guest next week will be. Gary Pinta, and you've seen the miniatures that he does, and that's going to be a great show. So come back next Thursday and join us. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Relics Radio. We really do appreciate it. Be sure and join us live each Thursday night at 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern here on Spreaker. Or you can catch the archive show at Relics Radio on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes. Please take a minute and hit the like button, and be sure and follow us so that you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Digging with Seven or Tennessee Jeff, or you can check us out on our Relics Radio Facebook page. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to diggingwith7@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We hope you'll join us next Thursday night, and until then, get out there and dig some history.